Shuddering. Actively pursuing a bear is a significant step for me. I'm glad I did it and overcame some of my concerns, especially as he drew nearer. But I also made sure to keep camp safe, so my young grandchildren could still come and see me. The tenacious Life Below Zero star, Sue Aikens, has enthralled audiences with her survival abilities at Kavik River Camp for years. Following speculations and conjecture over Sue's absence, fans have recently been curious about her whereabouts. Sue has experienced terrible hardships that have tried her heart and soul, from the tragic death of close ones to becoming the target of unfounded death rumors. Come along with us as we reveal the truth about Sue Aikens' true fate. Imagine residing in one of the most remote locations on the planet, with the closest road being 80 meters away and the closest city being 500 meters away. That's about as remote as it gets. Now, combine that with below freezing temps and a secluded area frequented by grizzly bears, and it's obvious that only someone like Sue Aikens could live at Kavik River Camp. Sue has had numerous difficulties on Life Below Zero, but none have been as terrifying as the 2007 bear attack at her isolated camp. Sue had reportedly previously saw the bear burying caribou carcasses close to her cabin. Many would have packed up, but Sue knew what it meant because she had lived with wildlife since her days on the show. Although it wasn't an issue, the bear's selected location was too near her airstrip, and it was possible that the bear would return. She also realized she had to relocate the cadaver to prevent an attack. In an emergency, that plot of earth was the only level area where helicopters could land. Sue had to cope with the issue, since she had no other option. Sue took her gun and left her cabin that fateful day, just like any other experienced Alaskan. However, she required both hands to operate the pump that drew water from the river. She was forced to put down her gun. Everything changed at that one vulnerable moment. Suddenly, the bear that had been hiding close by emerged from the riverbank and sprang at her. It was an abrupt and vicious onslaught. Before she could respond, the bear knocked her to the ground. Sue made a snap decision that probably saved her life at that very moment. She tried to look unthreatening and stayed motionless, not retaliating. Although this may seem like a crazy thing to do, grizzly bears frequently prioritize power over food. Sue very likely knew this and responded appropriately. She suffered severe injuries and dislocated hips as the bear pulled her about and chewed at her skull. Although Sue was aware that the bear would eventually retreat, it had already recognized her cabin. She was aware that she needed to defend herself because of her wounds and the bear's keen sense of smell. Fortunately, before her hips failed her, she managed to muster the strength to shoot it. The bear finally withdrew after some time, leaving Sue bleeding and laying in the snow. Many people would have freaked out in situations like this, but Sue remained calm. She used her survival skills to bind up the wounds and lower the risk of infection, patching herself up as best she could. With that, she was able to return as quickly as possible to her cabin. Sue attempted to call neighboring pilots and even state troopers for assistance back at her cabin, but her remote location made it practically impossible for them to get to her. She had been caring for her wounds in terrible conditions for over a week by the time she was saved and flown to the hospital. Her head wounds were treated, her hips were straightened, and the protracted healing process started at the hospital. Later, she remembered that the bear's jaw impression was still visible on her scalp, serving as a reminder of how near death she had been. Living alone in one of the most isolated regions of the globe means that you are always in danger of dying. Sue, however, did not avoid that fact. She actually once stated that you must be at ease with your own mortality if you chose her way of life. She is able to continue after surviving something that most people couldn't fathom because of that thinking. Sue did not let the attack to deter her from her way of life, in spite of the awful event. Sue has taken additional safety measures to protect herself since the attack, constantly being ready for any possible danger. It is safe to assume that Sue is accustomed to life-threatening circumstances from her more than 13 years of appearances on the show. She has endured the worst weather Alaska has to offer and has survived a bear assault. Although the wild was the source of such concerns, she has also been threatened by the digital world. False reports of deaths. Despite the fact that she was still alive and healthy, these false stories have caused confusion among followers, panicked social media users, and led many to assume she had actually died. Early in 2023, one of the most recent instances occurred. Sue's death was reported by a number of media outlets. There was no obvious reason or source of death mentioned in the headlines. To get readers, some even created clickbait titles. The timing, however, made matters worse. At about the same time, a Pennsylvania woman called Susan Aikens died. On a Reddit community devoted to the show, a fan revealed that they had a heart attack upon hearing of Susan's passing. Many admirers thought it was the TV star, because of the closeness in names, even though the woman had nothing to do with the show. The fact that Sue continued to publish pictures and updates from Kavik River Camp, and that her Facebook and Instagram sites were still active, demonstrated that she was still alive and well, even though she did not issue a formal public statement refuting the claims. Alaska. That was sufficient evidence to many fans that the rumors were untrue. However, it wasn't the first time that Sue's passing had been misreported. Similar allegations had previously surfaced, either related to her health or her lack of participation in upcoming Life Below Zero episodes. Every time Sue took a vacation or made fewer appearances on the show, fans and media started to wonder about her health. Sue leads a very private existence in a remote location, which is the primary reason the rumors gained traction. The closest media outlet and hospital are hundreds of miles distant. She also doesn't frequently post updates. Sometimes, that quiet allows rumors to spread. The speed at which misleading information circulates online is another factor contributing to the rapid spread of these myths. On any social media site, a rumor can spread quickly and be replicated in dozens of blog entries. Furthermore, most people find the tale credible when it concerns a well-known television celebrity who lives in a remote area. Sue is particularly vulnerable to these unfounded death rumors because of her lifestyle, prior injuries, and sparse public appearances. Her bear attack and her earlier declaration that she would accept the chance of dying in the wild by herself are still remembered by many. Sue Aikens is still alive, in spite of the rumors. She keeps running Kavik River Camp and concentrates on her property, her camp, and her way of life, which are the things that are most important to her. Aside from the death rumors, Sue suffered yet another tragedy in 2017, after the series producers compelled her to participate in a stunt that harmed her. Following the incident, Sue Aikens reportedly sued the creators of Life Below Zero. She alleged in the lawsuit that the producers coerced her into participating in dangerously prepared sequences. The BBC, 3 of its subsidiaries, and one of the show producers were named as defendants in her lawsuit. Although this is common in the media industry, it's also crucial to remember that Sue had a contract with the show's producers before the incident that said she couldn't refuse to work or postpone the filming schedule. The production team had control over the way sequences were filmed because, to the agreement, Sue maintained that even in situations where her safety was in jeopardy, this agreement did not provide her with any protection. The lawsuit focuses on The Crash, a season 5 episode. Filming for that episode began in June of 2015, and the season ran from April to June of the same year. Sue had picked a spot she was familiar with for the planned camping scene, but according to reports, the producer requested that the crew relocate to another, farther-flung location down the river. It would make for better video, he remarked. The lawsuit claims that even though Sue preferred the Argo ATV, which was more appropriate for icy conditions, the producer insisted that she travel by snow machine and sled. Sue reportedly told him that she was worried about the plan's safety, but he ignored her. She added that she was told to leave her elder dog at the camp by the producer. Sue was furious because she had agreed to participate in a documentary, rather than a predetermined program, that dictated her decisions and behavior. While filming went on, Sue proposed a different strategy. She offered to seek for ptarmigan, leaving her sled and tent behind. She would have needed meat and feathers, therefore this would have been a realistic and useful task. However, he turned down her proposal once more, and told her to ride down the river and enter what is known as overflow. An overflow, to put it simply, is a place where water runs over the ice, weakening it. Sue protested once more, pointing out that the ice was fragile and might break beneath the snow machine's weight. As the producer became irritated with Sue's reluctance, the situation became more heated. He allegedly screamed at Sue and the safety team, telling them to do as he said because they were working for him and not Sue. In order to get Sue's face on video, he even insisted that she take off her helmet. The producer once demanded that Sue claim credit for a daring scheme to ride across the overflow fast enough to stay clear of the ice. The altercation went on despite her persistent resistance. Sue finally gave in to his pressure, albeit grudgingly. She was catapulted from her snow machine after colliding with an ice ridge, while obeying the producer's instructions. She remembered the shattering sound of her bones when she landed hard. Even worse, when crew members tried to assist her, they had to take off the majority of her winter clothing, leaving her vulnerable to the bitter cold. Furthermore, the producer made another choice that sparked grave worries. He told the pilot to land at the far end of the Milong runway when the team got back to camp. The lawsuit alleges that the purpose was to capture Sue's agonized and limping journey to the aircraft. Despite the fact that she needed immediate medical assistance, he wanted dramatic film of her suffering. Although Sue eventually obtained medical attention, the harm had already been done. Sue's attorneys acknowledged that she had had numerous surgeries, but they did not list all of the ailments in the court filings. She now experiences persistent discomfort in her arms, legs, and back. She finds it challenging to continue living in Alaska because of these injuries. Sue claimed in the lawsuit that the crew had broken their agreement by putting her in danger during filming. She also said they caused her long-term emotional suffering and meddled in her private affairs at Kavik River Camp. In addition to seeking specific damages for her mental and bodily suffering, her counsel asked for a jury trial. The BBC refrained from making any public remarks regarding the subject during the court proceedings. According to the company's spokesperson, they were unable to respond because they had not yet gotten a copy of the case. Sue's return to the screen in Season 6 suggests that the lawsuit was ultimately settled out of court, even if the conclusion was not made public. Unquestionably, Sue has gained the respect of fans worldwide for her candor and transparency in addition to her survival skills. But the devastating loss of her cherished granddaughter, Drew McClure, was one of the hardest things Sue has had to deal with. Sue and Drew were very close, and Drew was just 19 when she passed away. Sue talked candidly about her sadness in a Life Below Zero episode. After the loss rocked her, Sue's vulnerable breakdown in front of the camera was surprising to viewers who have watched her journey on the show. In the show, she paid a heartfelt homage to Drew, demonstrating the depth of her grief. Sue has always talked about how much she values her family. Her family has always come first, even though she lives in a remote area of Alaska. She frequently expressed her love for her granddaughter on social media and shared touching moments with Drew. Sue celebrated Drew's 18th birthday by sharing a message on Instagram. Sue wrote in the post about the happiness Drew had given her. She added that Drew's presence had brought her delight every day, even though her birthday presents hadn't arrived in time. The specifics of Drew's passing were not disclosed to the public, but Sue expressed her sorrow to her audience. She decided not to disclose the details. Although Sue has made it apparent that there are some aspects of her life she does not want to discuss, this choice has left many followers wondering what transpired. For anyone, losing a grandchild is a terrible event. But for Sue, who already led a solitary existence in the Alaskan bush, it was especially difficult. Due to her distant location, Sue frequently encounters potentially fatal circumstances. However, losing a family member, especially one who lives so far away, added another layer of challenge. Fans expressed their support for Sue during this trying time on social media after the show aired. In addition to expressing their sympathies and letting her know they were praying for her recovery, many fans were profoundly touched by her homage. As Sue coped with her loss and carried on living alone in her cabin, these encouraging notes were essential. For Sue, losing Drew was a devastating emotional blow that has had an impact on her in ways that aren't always obvious. Sue's terrible tragedy, however, didn't stop there. In 2022, she also lost her sister Pam, who died suddenly. It was eventually disclosed that Pam passed away as a result of difficulties associated with a medical condition. Even though the specifics of her death were first kept under wraps, Pam had played more than just a family role in Sue's life before to her death. She provided emotional support and a link to the outside world, which helped Sue get through tough times. This contributes to the depth of her loss. Sue frequently talked about how the only person who really understood her wilderness lifestyle was Pam, always available to her when she needed to discuss her difficulties. Sue was devastated by the deaths of her sister and granddaughter. But in 2023, she experienced yet another devastating loss when her dog, Lil Bob, died. Sue posted on Instagram to inform her fans of the heartbreaking news. She referred to Lil Bob as her best friend and best poodle in the article. Lil Bob was not merely a pet. He was one of the devoted Malamute dogs that Sue kept by her side in the isolated Alaskan tundra. Lil Bob, who frequently appeared in Life Below Zero episodes and Sue's social media posts, became well known and beloved by the show's viewers. In addition to offering Sue solace and company, his lively demeanor and unceasing presence throughout the camp gave spectators a feeling of coziness. After learning of his departure, fans conveyed their condolences and were profoundly moved by his antics. Numerous admirers posted encouraging remarks in the comments section of Instagram. However, it didn't stop there. Sue experienced yet another devastating loss in 2024, with the death of her second dog, Spritz. Spritz had been Sue's close friend, sharing her solitary existence at Kavik River Camp. Much like Lil Bob, Sue posted a heartfelt message on social media the morning of his death, stating that Spritz had calmly determined it was time to join Lil Bob. Sue stated that Spritz died while he was sleeping in the morning, and expressed her sincere appreciation for the years of friendship he had given her. Sue wrote in her post that she was thrilled that Spritz had decided to share his golden years with her and her daughter. Spritz was a devoted friend who made her days full of love and happiness, she said, describing the joy and camaraderie he brought into her life. Spritz was a regular part of Sue's day, going on walks with her and helping out around the camp. Sue kept working and living in her isolated camp in spite of her losses. Despite the end of life below zero, Sue is still an independent survivor and manages her camp, which she has made accessible to visitors.